Hi everyone, welcome to Commissioner Wilson's virtual office hours.
Welcome.
Yay. We're sitting on the couch.
Couch today.
Couch, yeah. We do have a special guest, and we also have our other policy aide here, Hannah. But before we dive into our special guest's reason for being here, Commissioner, how was your week this week?
Look at me, I'm so excited about having a special guest and Hannah on the couch. I'm like, what? It was good. It was, I always say it was a busy week, so that's all I'm going to quit saying it right this second. There were some very great interactions I had this week with residents. I had the opportunity to go out and celebrate what, was a community victory in a traffic roundabout that is keeping people safer in the area where there's lots of kids and a school. So it's so far it's been great. I know we're not done yet, but having a guest speaker today on office hours really also highlights good things on the horizon.
Yes, and so today's theme is sustainability. You went to an event called Walk and Bike to School Day. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, this happens all over. This is sort of this idea that I think probably should be every day, that children all over should have the ability to walk and bike to their school, and that means safely, not just walk and bike and hopefully get there. That means safely with potentially extra adult eyes, because there can be some grown-ups along with them, everyone in helmets, everyone brightly colored with good working bikes. So all over the area, all over Orange County, there were organized events to various schools, and the one out close to my house actually included the school where I was very actively involved in trying to make sure that we could get kids safely to the school on their bikes. So it's a cause near and dear. We talk about sustainability and resiliency, and being able to ride your bike to whatever you need to get to that's transportation. It's a low cost, no auto insurance way to get to where you need to go.
And zero emission.
And zero emission.
And fun.
And fun.
So it's like,
it's a win-win-win.
Exercise, good for your health.
Exactly. So the idea, I think we have included some words that I'm glad for, and walkability and bikeability. These are words that we've sort of added to our vocabulary in urban planning, but that has to actually be seen, and it has to be visible, and it has to be really there has to be days that we stop and take notice, and this is one of those. And so to see kids that normally don't maybe get to ride their bikes for whatever reason out in clumps heading up to school, hopefully for them, it plants that seed that was really fun. And I spent my whole day today feeling really energized because I got to ride my bike up here, and hopefully it planted the seed with some of the grown-ups, like, you know what, if this sidewalk was a little bit wider, we'd be able to get even more bikes on here, or a bike and a mom with a stroller, or a bike in a wheelchair. And that's really that's an ideal situation for all of us. So those are our goals, and that type of event is just one day, but we need to really shoot for every day. Should be walk and bike to school day.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I never realized until I started working here that Orlando is the most unsafe place for pedestrians in the nation, and that walkability, bikeability is really connected to almost everything else. Like public transit is definitely connected to our poverty rates and our just overall quality of life, getting cars off the road. I mean, it's all connected.
It doesn't seem like it is until you start talking about the reason why. And I know that it has been a subject of some frustration out in District 1 that the speed limit came down on Winter Garden Vineland Road after a long traffic study and after some really tragic accidents took place. And one of the things I've tried to make sure I'm communicating with residents who wonder why that was done or what they were looking at is that when that was first built as a wide thoroughfare that it is, it was really sort of the way you got from Winter Garden or Apopka down to Disney World. So the cast members that lived in Winter Garden and Apopka were able to go a little faster to getting to work because there were no residences on that road, there were no schools. Well, here we are all these years later, and now there are apartment complexes, subdivisions with young families, schools across that thoroughfare, that if we didn't make it safe for families to be able to cross that road, then they have to get into a car, pull out of their neighborhood, go down, U-turn, and get into a car line. And this is in a neighborhood directly across the street from a school. So our options are, you know, slow it down a little bit, provide some safety, allow some kids to get off a bus, allow some parents to get their kids on bikes and get to school, or even walk to the grocery store. We have apartment complexes that are separated from their grocery store by those lanes, and there's no crosswalk right there. So their options are, they take their lives in their hands, and you see it all the time, people making a sprint for it. Frogger. Or they get in a car and they go up 2 blocks and back 2 blocks. They circle around looking for a parking spot. And so really it's bigger than just the inconvenience of that speed limit. I know that's inconvenient for people. It's inconvenient for me also because I don't live on there, but I use that. It's just like many people who reached out to. But if we are protecting the safety of those residents, if we're able to get people off the road so that they're not crowding those roads, and maybe that will provide the benefit and the convenience that people are feeling like they're missing by the reduced speed limit.
One thing that's important to mention, I know we haven't dove into intros or anything, but the City of Orlando has been working to try to address this dangerous by design challenge. And last year we published a report called the Vision Zero Plan that really looks at ending pedestrian fatalities from these type of traffic accidents by the year of 2040. And that is too far out, in my opinion, so we need to really accelerate the work that we're doing. But I'm proud of the transportation department. We did a lot of community engagement. We looked at data, we looked at the traffic accidents, the incidents around the city and the county. I will say it's not just the City of Orlando, a lot of it is in our tourism parts of other parts of the Orlando metro. And at the end of the day, if all of us are on board with the same vision of creating a safer, more sustainable community, then we have to make some of these amends. And reducing 10 miles an hour of your speed limit isn't going to kill anybody.
Exactly.
Right? At the end of the day,
the other way around.
Maybe it's the other way around.
Somebody.
And maybe 2 or 3 or 5 more minutes in your travel commute, but you're going to be saving a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we need to center that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, real quick, COVID updates. We are at a 14-day rolling positivity rate of 7.67.
It's coming down.
Yeah.
It's
That's
coming
good.
down.
That's
And our
good.
vaccination rates have
Very
gone
quickly.
really to that level that we were shooting for like in July.
In the early 70s now, I think.
It's 74%.
Yes, we are right there in the 70s, and I think, to me, what that tells me is that as horrifying as it was when the Delta variant hit and we saw that positivity rate shoot up, that the people that were hesitant because they just didn't know if they were at risk made a decision, and that the people that were maybe waiting for their second shot made a decision. So thank you for being part of that group. Thank you for considering your neighbors and the rest of the people in your community.
Now, before we introduce our special guest, I just want to say, please email district1@ocfl.net if you have any questions specific to anything from the board. You just want to say hi, just shoot us an email. If you also want to sign up for our newsletter, because our lovely policy aide here, Hannah, she's going to be sending out a newsletter to take a deep dive into what's coming up at the BCC meeting. So
going out tomorrow afternoon.
So you better hurry. So go to NicoleWilson.org, and on the homepage right there, you'll see sign up for
Just scroll to the bottom.
newsletter. Or you can comment right here and ask questions, and hopefully we'll have time to answer them at the end. So,
Without further ado.
somebody just popped up on the couch all of a sudden. I heard a voice, and I thought I was just going crazy. Well, hello, Chris Castro, Director of Sustainability and Resilience of the City of Orlando.
Hello, Lee. Hi, Commissioner Wilson. Good to see you, Hannah.
I just want to say that I am so honored that Chris Castro came to spend some time with us here today and talk about Orlando's initiatives and plans and the work that's been done. As our municipal partner, as the seat of our county, it's really so important that you lead the way and that we have the opportunity to jump in and enthusiastically and aggressively try to get to the sustainability goals. Our children, who we were all talking about before this started, they're counting on us.
Yes.
That's true. The honor is mine. Thank you for the invite. Really appreciate it.
And I have to say, so I'm Chris's biggest fan. He's known that since 2012 when I first met him. And you know, when it comes to the climate movement, you feel really isolated and you feel like you have a lot of fears and you don't want to be a Debbie Downer, so you might not talk about it as much. Chris has gone out of his way to make sure the conversation's being had in the community. And I think that is actually one of the key things that pulled me out of my climate anxiety, was to have a place for like-minded people to come, share their concerns, but actually mobilize. And maybe you can tell us, Chris, a little bit about your past, what inspired you, and then we can dive into
some of the Orlando stuff. Well, yeah, so I'm a second generation Cuban American, was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and those roots are really important to me. And actually, uniquely, I grew up on a palm tree nursery. My mom remarried when I was about 5, and my stepdad had still does today, a palm tree farm, and which is pretty unique. And so I remember literally growing from seed,
agriculture, right?
Real ag, and gaining an appreciation for nature that I think not many people get to witness because of that unique upbringing, right? And so my parents were really intentional about getting us outdoors, taking us to the Florida Keys, doing snorkeling and scuba diving. I ended up falling in love with skateboarding and surfing when I was in my middle school and high school days. And the surfing connection actually was my big epiphany of why I think sustainability is my career path. It was really looking back to that. I ended up getting a full ride to UCF, undeclared, didn't know what I wanted to do, to tell you the truth. I was in the IB program and I got a good scholarship, and so
IB kids.
There you go. It works. Do it. It's hard. But when I got to UCF, I ended up stumbling in a course during that first year of trying to find my way, and it was in an intro to environmental science and policy. And Dr. Penelope Canan, who is still to this day one of my dear friends and mentors, really opened my eyes to the possibilities and the opportunity that we had to really make a real impact, and the threats that we're facing if we didn't take action. And that really led me to getting groups of friends together at UCF. We ended up starting ideas at UCF as a student club, and it kind of over time has evolved, and incredible leadership like Lee and Clayton Ferrara and Caroline have come on board to take it to a whole new height, and it's an amazing story, to tell you the truth.
Movement.
It is a real movement.
It starts with somebody who feels passionately, and then that's contagious, and people wanting to be part of that and contribute and watch it grow.
100%. And so I started to get a lot of interest in clean energy and the transition away from fossil fuels and what it would take to do that. And actually my undergraduate research study was on how to turn algae into biofuels. So how can we...
I did that too.
Did you? Get out! Get out!
I did,
but
I didn't finish it.
So I was doing a lot of research on how to sequester carbon and grow the next generation of biofuels, and I ended up getting a work study at the Department of Energy, and it snowballed me into this clean energy realm. And last piece of the story is right when I graduated from UCF, I ended up deciding to start a consulting company in clean energy called Citizen Energy. And I bootstrapped that. I literally took the last semester of school. I took out a student loan and helped to kind of underwrite my first year of running this business. It was a huge risk. I'm almost done paying back my student loan, by the way. I'll be done by the end of next year. So I am stoked about it. But so I start that, we're doing well. The whole company works on retrofitting buildings and making them more energy efficient. And right when I'm thinking I'm going to leave to Washington, D.C. to keep running my company, because I had a branch up there, I get a call from the mayor's office here in Orlando. And he had mentioned that they received a big grant. They wanted to bring on an expert in the energy realm to build out our strategy in Orlando. And I said, this is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity when you have an elected leader who gets sustainability and wants to bring me on board and give me a runway. I had to tell my business partner, listen, dude, I'm going to take a back seat. Like, this is too good.
And to frame this, there really wasn't a template in this area for this position. So
True.
I feel so grateful that we have Jeff Benavides here who helps us try to achieve these goals. But Chris, his position at the city sort of was the introduction to this idea that in the administrative realm, in government, there has got to be a separate and distinct set of policies. There's got to be projects, ideas, and work that can get us there. Because if we leave that to the departments, they do a great job, but they can't, we talk about the silos all the time. And
from a strategic standpoint, it's hard to move an institution as large as ours without having an orchestrated and intentional approach to what we're doing. And that's the importance around chief sustainability and resilience officers. I mean, it's absolutely critical. The beautiful thing about this role that we're in, is that we're basically an in-house consulting firm for the city and for the county. And our job is to actually help every department, every division, our residents, our businesses, our academic partners. I mean, we're there for the community to help them through this journey. And I can't tell you how impressed I am at our community, because right now we have a city, a county, a university, a college, an expressway authority, a transit agency, an airport, all which have sustainability plans,
Right.
all within the last 3 years. Look at another city and ask me and tell me how comprehensive their approach is to moving
And,
to
there
this
are
part of climate.
days where I feel like, I've been very open about it, that I get super frustrated with bureaucracy and trying to get things done. And then I hear this and I'm like, okay, but remember how far we've come.
Exactly.
Right? So if you frame it with where we were 3 years
Just
ago,
3 or 5 years ago, we're night and day different. And now the momentum is building. We have the federal support. We're starting to see a lot more interest and awareness in the community. And yeah, we have our day-to-day challenges and certainly real issues ahead of us, but there are some amazing things happening in the community.
And I hope that for people that are watching this, they picked up on it, that this was, that the entrepreneurial spirit that came in here, and this idea that, sort of that business brain and the entrepreneurial brain, that was going to be your path, and having that to plug in at this level was really beneficial.
It was a beneficial thing. I mean, some people joke and they call me a govpreneur because I've taken entrepreneurship and applied it to government and thinking about food waste collection, or how we developed the composting initiative, or how we're dealing with our renewables strategy. It all has a business case behind it. And I think that's really unique. So long story short, I've been here at the city now 7.5 years, which is amazing. I thought it was only going to be a 2-year stint, and I fell in love with local government and the work that we're doing to transform a city and a region like Orlando, as fast growing as we are, with the attention that we get from the tourism, right? It is an opportunity to be a showcase city for the future of humanity, right? And that's the beauty about it, is I have leadership like Mayor Dyer and our commissioners who, really are about giving me the runway and the support and trust to really move us in the right direction. And I can't thank them enough for that.
It's fantastic.
Well, I definitely think that there is an economic piece, and also you're getting nationwide, international recognition for the projects that you're doing.
Yeah.
When everyone talks about costs, right, and you talk about like actual impact, you're helping to create jobs, you're helping to drive the conversation in the next generation's direction of need.
Right.
And a lot of other cities that are very resistant to these changes, they're going to have a hard time keeping up in the global economy if they don't advance the way that you're taking the city of Orlando.
I agree 100%. One of the things Mayor Dyer often brings up is, sustainability and Greenworks Orlando, why we created it. One thing, of course, first priority is doing our part to be responsible with the environment and natural resources. But he also sees this as a real economic development strategy. The creative class, the talent that's coming out of our universities and even high schools today want to live in communities that are walkable and bikeable. They want to live in communities that embrace sustainability, that are moving away from fossil fuels, that are really trying to enable more mass transit. These are the types of cities that we want to be in and live in. And we are the largest generations, millennials, Gen Zs, and by a long shot, and we have an opportunity to really shape. And so it's really a matter of attracting. How do we become an attractive community? And part of that growth, there are some challenges with that rapid growth, which we can certainly get into, but it's about creating that welcoming place to live, work, learn, and play. And I think little by little, we're moving Orlando in a positive direction in many respects.
Well, and when you factor in the cost of inaction, right? Like how much will it cost us to mitigate these natural disasters in the future? It makes so much more sense to invest now.
Yeah.
You do a cost benefit, but the problem is we don't have a common standard, I think, where we have a way to quantify the exact cost of, mass grading a lot. Can we quantify how much carbon was being sequestered by those trees? How much would that have, provided us economic benefit? We don't have that standard that we use enough.
Haven't incorporated it into our
right. And if we did, we would probably grow a lot smarter. But.
Yeah, part of some of the roles that I've been doing in the city, in addition to pilot projects that help us to understand the value of some of these things, is institutionalizing it into the policies and procedures, right?
Yeah.
Having the city and the county lead by example before we start passing ordinances.
That
And
low hanging
and we control that,
Or like
right?
Jeff says, under the hood.
Under the hood. Let's
Yeah,
look
if
under
we-
the under the
If
hood.
people think it can't be done, and we can show that within our own processes, within our own, then we
And
set
there's a
the
value
example.
prop, there's a business case, there's
Right.
an economic reason for it. It's not just good for the environment, it's good for taxpayers.
Right.
And I think one of the best examples of that is energy efficiency and the ability for us to renovate our facilities. We forget how impactful buildings are on the planet. And just a fun fact here, 72% of Orlando's greenhouse gas footprint is coming from buildings using energy.
Wow.
You know, the first time I ever met
72%?
you actually was when I was doing some work for the Legal Women Voters, Natural Resources, and you presented about looking at buildings the way we look at the sticker on our car,
Yes.
where we get to look, you look to see what is the economy, the fuel economy of your car,
Exactly.
or now that we have electric cars, what is our range on this car, and what is it when you break it down to pennies. And so this idea of looking at our city this way and the buildings this way and their efficiency gives a whole different dimension.
Completely different dimension. And you're right, this miles per gallon kind of figure is an indicator for us to understand where we might have the greatest opportunities for saving in our buildings. And so to that point, Orlando back in 2017 passed a policy that requires our largest buildings above 50,000 square feet in the community to step on the scale every year, do a performance, what we call an energy benchmark, and report that to the city so that we make it publicly transparent. This data is open to the market. People can actually start to look at space types like hotels versus multifamily and what impact those facilities have on greenhouse gas emissions, on energy use intensity, right? And if we don't measure it, there's no way for us to manage, right? That's that saying. You can't manage what we don't measure.
It really brings the consumer in, right? Because if you're thinking about what you want to lease or purchase,
yes.
And just like when you're shopping for a car and you're looking for something that is easy on your wallet and you don't have to make a lot of stops at the gas station, you want to find a building that is efficient, that you're not paying
Lower cost of living.
living. We talk about maintenance and overall impacts to the environment, greenhouse gases and carbon. So it really is, it puts it right back in the consumer when you have all that transparency, and which I think is really ideal for, that's just what government should do everywhere. So not just as a really good idea for us to understand what's contributing to our climate, but really so that when people go in and try to figure out what they want to utilize the building for, what they're looking at.
And the other thing is a lot of people don't realize that the site versus source. So if we can reduce 1 unit of energy at our home or at this building, we're saving about 4 units at the power plant because of the amount of waste in the system. The inefficiency of producing power, of transmitting that power, of distributing that power, and then using that power at the site, that whole process has losses of 70 to 80%.
Wow.
So if we're putting 100 tons of coal into the furnace, 70 to 80 tons went to waste. Did not do anything. Lighting, heating, cooling, it went to waste, to vibrations, to heat, to loss. And only 25% actually went to work. That is a significant discrepancy and just shows how much of just by saving 1 unit at that site, we're saving 4 at the source, and equate that to emissions now, it becomes massive.
Yeah. Well, at the 30-minute mark, because I know you have so many awesome things that I'd love to go through, where can people find out more information just so that we can plug that now on that Energy Efficiency for Buildings website for people to look at?
Yes.
Where can
So,
we find that?
well, on Orlando.gov, we have, you can look up the Office of Sustainability and Resilience, and one of the initiatives on that page is called BWES, BEWES, stands for Building Energy and Water Efficiency Strategy, and that is the policy that we've implemented to really start the tracking. We just published an impact report from the first 3 years of this policy to show the reduction of greenhouse gases, to show the improvements of scores, and so it's eye-opening. You can download that report.
So what give me an example of what and I'm so sorry, I know you got to finish this thought, but I had like in my head, what would improve the score? Like give an example for what would improve that score.
So there's a lot of things that can improve a building score. First of all, we got to think about what components of a building use energy. And we call those the base building systems. So that includes things like HVAC, or air conditioning and heating and ventilation. That's in Florida here is about 60 to 70% of our bill. It is significant because obviously of our weather. The second big energy user is hot water. Because water has such a high specific heat, it takes a lot of energy to change it from 1 degree to another versus air, right? And so there's a lot of energy that goes into water, and about 15% of our home's bill is water heat. So between HVAC and water heating, we're up to 85, almost 90% of your bill. Lighting becomes usually, cold water is a great way to do that. That certainly saves and reducing hot water. Heat pump water heaters, by the way, are the best and most efficient source of heating water, because what it does is it's a reverse air conditioning. It pulls heat from the environment and puts it into the water and minimizes the amount of power that's used to heat the water. So it's called a heat pump. There's a lot of other benefits of those as we move forward into a smarter grid. So you have HVAC, you have water heating. Then next is really lighting, and moving towards, of course, LED at this point in time is what you need to do for everything. Then you have what we call plug load, which is all of your appliances, making sure that they're Energy Star certified, that they're efficient. When you're going to buy a new appliance, make sure to look for that label, and that really helps. And then lastly, it's your envelope and the insulation, the windows, the walls of your facility, and how you can keep that conditioned space from being leaked out. Right? Because then you're creating more HVAC, which goes back to the load of 60 to 70%. So it's really those 5 key areas: envelope, lighting, plug load, HVAC, hot water. And
that's exactly what I would guess.
And so, and so what we want to do is
just memorize that, no problem.
make sure to focus on what you can little by little, and each time you got to replace one of these things, make sure it's high efficiency.
And you know, I think about the conversation we're having about sort of like the larger buildings, right, or
Yes.
or commercial structures, but really that's applicable.
It's applicable
Across the
for our
board.
homes, it's applicable for hotels, for multifamily, you name it. And there are a lot of programs that we're now trying to develop with OUC to help offset the upfront cost of making these improvements, right? We've, commercial cases on the list here pretty soon, right?
Yeah, we
So
had that last week.
Heard about
And
that. Very
if you,
excited.
I was going to say, let me just do a quick reminder on this. This is an agenda item that has come before the Board of County Commissioners and will come up again, narrowing in on some of the language. The structure it's not tax dollar usage. So it's a structure really for financing that allows for a commercial entity to finance to do these type of improvements for efficient projects, and it uses a different mechanism of financing. So it's not based on the business itself. It's not based on the accounts receivable of business. It's actually based off the tax assessment on the property. So it's a very different structure. And we will be coming back to you to explain all of it once we get the final language, and hopefully have some information about some of the providers.
CPACE is a really important tool, so I'm really happy and excited for your support to move this thing forward. And props to Jeff and Lori and the team; they've been pushing it.
So tell us a little bit more about the different parts of Greenworks. Maybe just kind of an
Sure.
overview of what Greenworks is and what your goals are.
Thank you. So Greenworks Orlando really is the brand that we've been working off of since Mayor Dyer launched this effort in 2007. So actually really early on for cities and thinking about what the future looks like. And the first 5 years of Greenworks, it was very much under the hood internal. Before they had an actual full-time person, it was a couple of people part-time who were helping to look at our waste that we generate, the fuel in our fleet, how do we transition it, right, the energy in our buildings, and then we really pivoted to the community. Greenworks is broken out into 7 key focused areas. Those include clean energy and the transition of the electric grid, right? Green buildings and ensuring high performance, efficient, healthy buildings, local food systems and really building out a robust local food community and economy. Zero waste to landfill and incinerators, moving away from our landfills and towards more of a circular economy, right? Number 5 is around what we call livability, which is our natural systems and ecology work in terms of urban forestry and habitat protection, wetlands and tree canopy coverage and the like. Number 6 is clean water, and we look at it both from a quantity and a quality standpoint, so a lot of work in that space around clean water. And last but certainly not least is alternative transportation, and really trying to get people out of a single occupancy vehicle, using alternative forms of transportation and pushing electric, right? And so those are the 7 kind of key focus areas of urban sustainability, quite frankly.
My platform.
That's the platform, right? And I'm happy to have participated with Jeff in developing the internal plan for Orange County, their sustainability and resilience plan, and basically models that exact same framework if you look at it. So those are really the key pillars, and within those there are goals that have been co-created with our community and our various departments. We have priority strategies, and then we have certain KPIs that we track our progress over time. And yeah.
So we're trying to bust up the acronym thing here. What is a KPI?
KPI are key performance indicators, so it's a way, some type of indicator, whether
what the
a
data
greenhouse
shows
gas
us.
metric, let's say, we're trying to reduce that by 90%, well, we got to look at the greenhouse gases that we're emitting every year and start tracking that. So that's an example of a KPI.
Yeah.
And the kind of cool thing about this work is that so many of the things that you're doing, they are quantifiable. They're quantifiable in what you're identifying that needs to be addressed, and quantifiable in the result and along the way. And so, as frustrating as it is sometimes to try to make these changes, seeing and being able to actually demonstrate the outcome is huge.
Part of that is I just looked at our numbers today for our greenhouse gas emissions, and since 2007 when we launched Greenworks, we've seen a 19% reduction in CO2e total and a 36% when you look at per capita.
Wow.
So we're reducing. Now, are we on track to hit science-based targets? The answer is no. We're at about a 1.5 to 2% reduction per year. We need to be at a 5 to 7% reduction per year. So doubling, almost tripling of our work. Good news is the work that we're doing is showing progress. We're showing the trend line.
Right, and I was going to say, and there has to be something also that's compounded, right? So because the efforts to get the structures in place to try to make these changes, it's that underlying structure that sometimes is the difficult first.
You got it. Once you have the foundation at least built, or that policy, then we're starting to see the benefits from it moving forward. The other thing I wanted to mention about Greenworks is our integration with the Sustainable Development Goals. So these for those who haven't heard of the SDGs, we call them Sustainable Development Goals. These were established by over 196 countries in 2015. They were ratified, and there's 17 global goals to move humanity in a direction that ends poverty, eliminates inequalities, and protects ourselves from the threats of environmental and climate crisis. So these 17 goals aren't just about the environment. I know people hear sustainability and they think, all right, trees and the environment. This is comprehensive, looking at people, planet, and prosperity, social justice issues. We're looking at economic inequality. We're looking at, obviously, environmental sustainability. So what we've done is taken the global 17 framework, and we've started to integrate them to our local priorities, these 7 pillars. And just last week, we published our first, what we call voluntary local review of that progress, of how City of Orlando is contributing to these global sustainability goals and how we're tracking them, and specific partnerships that we've established to move our community in that direction. So global to local, to your point earlier, we're really trying to do our part.
Yeah. So what does the future of Central Florida look like in terms of sustainability and resilience specifically? What's the future? If you could like look into the future, what would you see? And then what roadblocks do we have right now to get there?
Well,
the crystal ball.
The crystal ball. Well, if I had the crystal ball. So we've talked about our region being one of the fastest growing regions in the country, right? 1,000 to 1,500 people per week is the stat that we throw around. And that hasn't stopped during COVID. It's been impressive to see that continue pretty steadily. And so I think one of the challenges that we're facing is rapid urbanization, and ensuring that as we grow in an intentional and in a sustainable way. And part of that needs to be very difficult decisions by our elected leaders to begin to, one, restrict boundaries and growth boundaries, begin to acquire very sensitive lands and waters that will mitigate any of the development or impacts to those sites, and then really start to think about how do we incentivize more infill development within already existed paved areas, right? Those are really 3 core aspects, I think, of what we need to do into the future. If our plan in Greenworks materializes the way that we'd like to see, we see a future where all of our power is coming from zero carbon sources. that is a mix between distributed rooftop solar, carport canopies over parking lots, floating solar on retention ponds, even ground-mounted sites on, brownfields, as an example.
Yeah.
Right? We have one on top of a coal ash landfill. We have a solar array, and you couldn't do anything else on that land other than put solar. In fact, the EPA wouldn't approve anything but a solar farm. And so there's a need for all of these applications, and we need to move in that direction. Secondly, I think we need to really think about our waste. And I think, the county controls the waste infrastructure. And we are a customer of the county, right? We pay your tip fees, and we try to get rid of our stuff in that way. And I'm really excited about the Sustainable Materials Management Plan. SMMP is a really bold move for the county to start to look at, well, if we're moving towards zero waste, what type of infrastructure do we need to actually do that?
Yeah.
Are we looking at gasification pyrolysis? Are we looking at, anaerobic digestion? Are we looking at smart MRFs and other community composting assets? These are really critical for us to move into this zero waste future. And so,
are we budgeting for it too? And
Good point.
I during budget talks this year brought up that I would like to explore, and I think I kind of got some blank looks in the room, but it's okay because we're going to keep talking about it until it sounds more familiar. But the idea, after hearing about just even in residential collection, the exponential growth of refuse during COVID because people were getting takeout, and I understand, and that people were kind of skipping the recycling because there's been some public-facing information about the recycling and what's happening to us, and people sort of giving it up, and so they were doubling the amount of residential refuse, and looking at ways to incentivize closing that circle, even in just the residential areas, and some of the other areas in our state have a pay-as-you-throw.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to see if that's what we were talking about.
Pay-as-you-throw, this idea that for people who work really hard to rinse out their peanut butter jar and run it through the dishwasher and prep it so it can go in the recycling bin and try really hard to bring their water bottle every day, that they get to pay less in their, just the same way that if I take, a
Their
shower.
impact is less, so that
That's
you
exactly right. If I take a shower in 3 minutes versus 12, I pay less in water bill. And so I think that, if you look at, it's no different than our power bill and our water bill, that we should be able to, if we're really making efforts to conserve, we should be able to benefit from that. So, that is something that I brought up in public, during budget, and, we'll continue to kind of try to get information out there about comparative areas and that sort of thing. I don't think we're, under our Florida legislature, ever going to get to, a place where single-use plastics are
eliminated, maybe.
So the idea then is it's okay, because I think we can do this, right? We are, I think, a pretty sophisticated area that can come up with a plan to compete with their neighbors for how little they can put out at the end of their week. And how cool would it be if it was once every 2 weeks that you had to put something out, once a month?
It's a neat idea. It's a financial incentive, right? So you're trying to use economics to change people's behaviors, which often is a good indicator, right? We see this in the power industry where time of use rates, right? If you're using power during a peak time, utilities are moving in a direction where they're going to charge you more for that and charge less in off-peak. And that's going to encourage people to wash their dishes and clothes at night when there isn't a peak, right? And we're going to start to flatten things out. Same thing on the waste side. And so that's definitely a good point. And we'll see as this SMMP comes together, but we're really looking forward to seeing that. So that's on the waste. The last really important point is around access to parks and green space. And I think it's a big part of quality of life, right? When we think about quality of life, when we think about what makes cities great, it's really our park systems, our outdoors, and the connection to the natural world. And so we have a goal that every resident is within a 10-minute walk of a public park. As a dense city, that's probably more doable than unincorporated Orange County.
I think it should be doable.
But I think it should be. I agree.
I agree, and I think unincorporated Orange County has areas that are dense enough that at the very least, if we're looking at a T4 in our transit, which is a residential area that has a higher density, that should be a goal. And that is, to me, a very...
So it's an important part of any development. We have a park impact fee. Every new residential unit that gets built in Orlando has to contribute to a fund to help us buy parks and improve park amenities.
Yeah.
It is a requirement, and that's now creating more park spaces. So we have a new park in Creative Village going on, Luminary Green. We have a new park on Orange and Robinson. It's this pocket park. There's talks about a lot more expansion of green space and parks, and I know that you all are doing incredible work at the 22,000 acres that you've committed to. That's incredible. That is just amazing that the county stepped up to do that.
It
I gotta
is.
give you all
No,
huge props.
Well, listen, it's a community effort, right?
For sure.
This is because we have to coalesce so people understand that once that property's gone, it's gone.
Gone forever.
And so the investment had to be, should have been
10 years ago.
But we
years
are
But hey,
ago.
at this point, moving ahead, keep putting it away, and I think,
it's a model for other counties.
And
If
let
every
me
county did
tell
that in
you-
Florida, think about that.
yeah, no,
Amazing.
it's something that, trying to even take advantage of as many different places and options for getting that green space put away and green open space. And part of our frustration, my frustration when I look at development plans is that because there is a requirement for adequate public spaces and park space, and what happens is one of the loopholes, glaring loopholes that I brought up and that we need to try to hone in on, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, are they're able to just identify a soccer park somewhere 5 miles away that is used for nothing but soccer. There's not a tree on it, and I love soccer, don't get me wrong, but that is not considered. That is not what.
Well, you can pop a picnic on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
When I
It's
think
not
green
where
space,
you
I think of a
go
place where I
with
can
your
go and pocket
kindergartner to identify caterpillars. It's not where you can really absorb a little bit of that Mother Nature that we all have to have in order to be whole humans. And so but they're allowed to check the box with that. And so trying to close that type of loophole. And the other one is that they're able to use, this is just going to blow your mind, their drainage ponds. So, as green space, as open space, because it doesn't have a building on it, but it's also fenced in and it's used to collect polluted runoff. So to me, it's an absolute contradiction to the intent of that policy. And I often say when I first got here, I thought that the code was really broken, and there are some places where the code needs to be fixed. But I also think that to find the places where what is in the code is being used in a way that it wasn't intended to be used, and closing those.
There you go.
I think there are administrative fixes, and we need to get there. But those are two of the examples that I have almost in every single agenda binder.
I think it's, part of it, we were talking about earlier, is the relationship with these developers who ultimately, I think we need to do a better job at working with to better articulate why this is so critical. Why it's there, why is that policy there, and why is that important for the residents that are going to live in this subdivision that you're building, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day. And so some of it's on our end that I think we need to do a better job at articulating that. And I've seen some of the work that we've been doing down with Tavistock and Lake Nona, where they've been, really open to the suggestions that we've had around a linear green space. Now they're looking at a really incredible addition to Lake Nona that'll celebrate water. It'll bring a wildlife corridor, and it's about kind of walking them through the journey, because everybody's at a different space in this journey towards sustainability, right?
Yeah.
And we
Trying to
need
meet
to
them
understand where they're at, and then try to really bring them along quicker. And so there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't do Hannah here the favor of bringing up transportation. Hannah is a transportation nerd. She loves it. She's taught me everything that I know.
Best.
Talk a little bit about transportation and what the goals are in the short term and any obstacles to that.
Yeah, transportation is probably another one of the biggest challenges facing Central Florida. And I think it's been back to that notion of dangerous by design. We haven't necessarily designed our community to foster anything but the single automobile. And most cities built, after 1900s, really started focusing on building around the car. And you see the cities that were built before then, they're built around mass transit. Your Bostons, your New Yorks, your DCs of the world. They realized from a design standpoint that people needed to get around in a more efficient way. And so that's a challenge that we're facing, is we're trying to now retrofit what's already been built out with technology that doesn't necessarily fit the right way. And it creates challenges with public transit where we have huge lead times and you don't have enough ridership or frequency of those buses, and then people just get apathetic and they decide not to ride it as a result, and it just creates this negative spiral, right? And so we're really trying to figure out what are some tools that we can enable that are equitable, that are affordable, and that are sustainable as we transition and grow. And some of those include a whole hodgepodge of different things, right? It's a matrix of different strategies. Micro-mobility is a big one. And you all know that we have a e-scooter and e-bike program that's been going up and running for a couple of years now.
And our ordinance coming up Tuesday.
I heard about that
Our
one
discussion.
too, so back up for discussion. I know it's been a contentious issue.
Last work session was in July, so
Maybe it's
we've had
settled a
some
little
time.
bit, but I think it's really important, and we've seen
is.
tremendous use of this technology and minimizing the amount of vehicles that are on the road as a result, and just these trips, right? Micromobility is one. Secondly, in downtown Orlando, you all probably know we have what's called the limo, which is one of the first bus rapid transit systems in the country. It actually was the first funded USDOT ERT. We took it from one of our sister cities in Brazil named Curitiba. Curitiba, Brazil is very famous for their BRT, and they're a sister city. So we went down there in the 80s and took back this idea, and 21 years ago got funded. So we have this circulator. It's free of charge. It's underwritten by the city. And our goal has been to transition that bus system to a zero-emission bus system, primarily because a lot of those buses are going into Paramore, Lake Dot, and other communities on the west side that are primarily communities of color, disadvantaged, and for a long time have been polluted by the highway smack right
Higher
through it.
levels of asthma, higher levels of pulmonary.
COPD.
And so the idea of adding to the air pollution is not what we want.
No, it's the opposite. And so if we can, and the buses aren't the cleanest things on the road either. They're often the most polluting, from NOx, SOx, PM, 2.5, PM10. These are all really bad pollutants that impact public health, let alone the climate. We haven't even talked about carbon, right? So electrifying these bus systems are one of the best ways for us to improve public health in that realm. And so we've been doing a lot of that. We got 2 big federal grants. We have 8 electric buses currently operating, another 6 in manufacturing that will be here by June of next year. And once all 14 are operating, the entire limo system will be a zero-emission electric bus program. Lynx has been so excited that they've now publicly committed to 100% electric and alternative fuel by 2030 for their fleet.
Wow.
100% electric and alternative fuel. So you're talking about 150 more electric buses between now and 2030 for fixed route, paratransit, the neighborhood link that they have, other services, plus their buses. So we're working very closely with John Slott and with our utility, with Linda Ferroni at OUC, on figuring out the business model behind how do we really accelerate this growth.
That is fantastic.
So those are a couple things.
Problem is getting people on the buses instead of out of their cars.
Good point. Good point.
But to your point about it being cyclical, right?
those
The
are
reason
great,
why they
yeah.
don't ride the buses because the buses don't come around.
As often.
It's
so
always a chicken or the egg
Yes,
thing, because
exactly.
it's a huge investment for Lynx, understandably, to say, all right, we're gonna, redirect all
Increase
this
the-
money towards improved headway times and nice bus shelters to make people not mind standing on the sidewalk in the heat of the day, right?
If they get a sidewalk. It's a big
right, if they get a sidewalk, most of them are standing in a swale next to a pole.
Yep.
but if people don't show up on the bus, they're not going to do
It's
it
moot.
anymore, right?
One of the
And
things
so
we've
it's-
tried to do to encourage that is a pilot with an app called Miles, which we're still doing right now.
Oh yeah, I'm on that.
Are you?
I couldn't figure it out though, I'll be honest.
You
I
couldn't
have it
figure
on
what?
my phone,
Okay.
but I could not figure the Miles app out.
Well, it just does its thing. You just turn it on,
Okay.
and it basically tracks your movement and has algorithms to know what mode that you're using. So if you're
It
biking,
does give me the miles.
so it
but
does
I don't know
give
what
your
to do with
miles and
them.
your mode, and then you could cash in those miles for perks, right?
Okay, so maybe this would be a good educational thing, because I've had it on my
Yeah.
phone. I've got 2,000 miles or something. I've been because I
That's
bike
good.
to work.
That's
So I
perfect.
get,
That's
4
so cool.
times the amount of
We're
miles.
trying to use technology to
with the
encourage
bikes.
that, right?
Yeah,
But I don't know what to do with the miles, so.
So on the
And I love
Miles
the
app, though,
competition, right? Like that's
exactly.
No, it's
competition
cool.
with yourself.
Yeah, it is fun.
So that's one of the things that we're doing. And then last couple things are, on electrification, we've been doing a lot to expand infrastructure, to support more EVs on the road. We just installed 100 new level 2 charging stations at city parks, neighborhood centers, public venues, and parking garages. And not only, by the way, is this helping residents be more secure about their investment in EVs, right? And minimize what we call the range anxiety.
Listen, I get
right?
range anxiety. I
You
get
do.
like that. Let me plot my hang
I'm gonna
on.
make sure I have enough mileage, right? So not only does it help with that, but it also helps our own city fleet transition because we strategically place these in places
that's
where our own fleet vehicles are at too. So now it helps our city fleet charge overnight, helps the public charge throughout the day.
That's awesome.
It's a win-win situation. And so we made a capital improvement request, and it was a big deal. And then these DC fast hubs, as an EV driver, you know that fast charging stations
Yes.
are important for long distances, and we're building one right here in downtown.
Awesome.
22 fast charging stations right off of I-4, and it's going to help support a lot of the communities.
I was gonna say, if you're going from Tampa to Daytona,
Yep.
this is like the perfect
Yeah.
Stopping point.
stop, have your lunch, jump back in, head
Boom.
on out.
It's
And that would be,
perfect.
that's
Perfect.
fabulous.
So we're excited about infrastructure and really moving, and we can talk about policy as well.
Well, we're winding down to the last few minutes here, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of drive people to sign up for a newsletter, or how can they stay
Sure.
engaged with the work that you're doing?
So thank you for this opportunity, by the way. This has been great, and I think it's one of maybe
I wanna do a
hopefully
series.
Yeah, maybe you come back.
All right, we'll come out. We'll keep diving
This is
in.
ongoing.
We've hit 3 of our 7 pillars, so maybe we go into a couple of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
But first of all, you can find more information about Greenworks at greenworksorlando.com. That'll lead you straight to the city's website where you can learn all about these different pillars in our programs. We do have a newsletter sign up on that website, and all of our plans, the community action plan, the municipal sustainability plan, our voluntary local review, Vision Zero, all of these things we've been talking about, they live on that website. You can easily download them. And you'll see also our contact information. We're very open. We want to engage with residents and help you plug into these programs, many freebies that we have, different incentives, and ways to begin greening your own life. So
So I just want to also make sure that I know the municipal thing is sometimes confusing. So Orange County obviously has more than one municipality. Orlando sits right, we're the county seat, right, here it is. And so a lot of Orange County is part of the Orlando municipality. For people who maybe live outside of that,
Yep.
still can go on the site, see
Yes.
what's coming, still can, use
Definitely.
those charging stations, still
Yes.
have, because we are, these are really regional plans, and so the idea of making sure that we're sharing everything. And if you have any questions and didn't get those spots, just come to us, we'll get you to the right place.
Yep. And the last thing on the regionalism, because what we were trying to do, to your earlier point, is make Orlando the model that can replicate across Central Florida. And we've been working closely with East Central Florida Regional Planning Council on this regional resilience collaborative. And so there is a lot of work that's going on across now over 30 different governments that are partnering up and are elevating this message around sustainability and resilience, are working together to think about health and equity, addressing economic vitality coming out of COVID, and really centering how we advance these sustainability goals. So there's some exciting things happening, not just in Orlando or Orange County, but even across the region. And that's the only way we're going to solve this problem.
Right.
Is it can't be enough for Orlando to be zero waste and 100% renewables, and everyone around us is still dependent on the problem, right? So that's part of my mission now, moving forward, is to try to get more of these communities to follow suit. And so I'm out there speaking to different councils, working groups, and if you're in different cities in Orange County, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to speak to your groups as well.
And I want to follow up, because I was actually thinking about, I have some residents that are, and I love this idea, so if you're listening and you're part of an HOA board, they're actually thinking about setting up a committee in their HOA for resiliency and sustainability.
Cool.
And I said, you could be the model for that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Chris would have some ideas for how to maybe even what those things could be, because you talk about really, this drills down to each household, each street,
Yes.
and how we can be committed on that level. And the HOA really operates like a small government and has a lot of opportunities to really make some impacts on, our sustainability, resiliency, the cleanliness of our waterways.
Your landscape, your fertilizers, right? And we're working on fertilizer ordinance updates. That's another thing that we're doing with the county. There's a lot of collaboration, by the way, more than we've ever seen on this topic between City of Orlando and Orange County. I'm grateful for all of you for your willingness to engage with us.
Gosh,
Jeff and Lori and the team, we're working on grants. We have programs together. It's exciting. It's a good time.
It really is, and I will tell you, so in my confession, and I told Chris this before we went on, is that sometimes it feels like, the bureaucracy feels sometimes very burdensome, and I feel like I'm trying to push this boulder. And then when we talk about where we've come and what it's looked like within 3 years and 5 years and what's really right on the horizon, it gives me great hope, and I hope that you feel the same way, and I hope that staying engaged, and if you were listening to this and you had like a brainstorm about something, we love hearing that. That's where good ideas come from.
Bring it.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring it.
Awesome. And just one point I want to add to complement what Chris's whole role is that resiliency piece. Like, we're not just investing in these programs just because we want, the city of Orlando and Orange County to be cool and forward thinking, but it's also for our survival.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cities that are going through things that, with their, the grid that shut down last year in Texas because of an overnight freeze, with flooding issues, flash flooding issues that are literally killing people. Like, we need to think about the threats that are on the horizon and be prepared. So it's really a public safety thing that you're investing in.
Sounds like our next session will dive further
Yes.
into resilience.
Yeah,
We'll talk about resilience hubs,
And
how we're preparing for climate migrants. I mean, there's a lot of
And
things.
I think the resiliency conversation is really good because it's another one of those words everyone sort of knows the Webster's Dictionary version of resiliency, but what does that mean
In practice.
in practice? And I think the one conversation I have with people that really resounds is the toilet paper crisis of 2020, where all of a sudden people were freaking out about a supply line.
Yeah.
And it made you realize that everything in your fridge, everything in your cabinet, everything in your garage comes from somewhere else, unless you can do it yourself. And so this whole, talk about, going into resiliency is also looking at those supply lines, and that's not getting any better. There's still a lot of challenges. And so trying to figure out how to create a more independent,
Foster that local economy, right?
foster a local economy, and is really, to me, there's so many opportunities, and they're all really exciting, and they're all really dependent on sort of people's interest and what they're interested in. We worked on the backyard chicken ordinance, and talking about being
part of food security.
That's right.
Food resiliency, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
So next topic, resilience,
have to do
equity
it.
work. We're going to talk about
So
equity.
this is, yes,
All right.
yes, exactly. I'm very, very excited about that.
Cool.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Chris, for being here.
My pleasure,
And
thank you.
just in closing, I have a couple dates I'm going to throw at you in a speed round. This weekend is Come Out with Pride, so Saturday.
It's Come Out with Pride, woo!
You can,
So
I think
supportive.
really festivities start around 11 a.m., but the actual parade itself starts at 4. You
Can't
better
wait.
get downtown or else they're not going to find parking, baby.
It's going to be so much fun.
Or you can
And
bike
we'll-
or take a bus.
Love
That's what I'm
it.
gonna do.
See what I told you? Also, the Board of County Commission meeting is coming up on October 12th, so stay tuned for that. Tonight and on October 14th, there's a virtual Avalon Lot Split community meeting. We'll be posting all about that. The virtual one is tonight, and then on the 14th is in person. So go to NicoleWilson.org/events to see that.
Yeah, and if Avalon people are on here, just know this is staff initiated. This is something that's in conversation right now with the virtual. We're going to have it in person. If you have any questions about it, call me. This was at the request of a resident. This wasn't an applicant, a developer applicant. So I just don't want there to be, I know that there's.
And it won't be smaller than 4.5 acres.
And yeah, I know there's been a lot
To
of.
immediately quell concerns.
Yeah, and I know, I understandably, I feel the sense of anxiety. So I want you to know that we're really watching anything that's got Avalon rural settlement on it, like hawks around here. So
Yes. And we apologize, we scheduled this date without realizing, because we got the dates later, that redistricting is tonight at 6:30. So if you can stay tuned, both are going to be recorded and shared on social media, but we really want people to listen and tune in to redistricting. On October 25th, we'll have the District 1 redistricting community meeting out at the West Orange Recreation Center. And yeah.
And the last thing is that if you are in the Winter Garden area, Winter Garden is hosting this evening a discussion about the turnpike widening through the Tildenville area.
And I'll be there.
Yeah, this is a area of concern. The historic Tucker Ranch, and the plans for Tucker Ranch are right there. Tildenville, which is historic area.
Road widenings don't work.
And they want to add a ramp right there. So Turnpike Authority is going to be the topic of discussion at Tanner Hall. Mike Wallhofer at Winter Garden.
At 6:30.
Yeah, at 6:30. We're gonna try to make sure that all that information that's going on tonight, 'cause that's 3 different places, and not anyone can be at 3 places at once. So we're going to collect all that and make sure it's accessible for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. And
Thank
just thank
you.
you
Thank
for
you so
tuning
much,
in.
guys.
Pleasure.
And if
Thank
you want to
you.
get in
Keep it
touch
up.
with us, district1@ocfl.net.
Thank you.
Thank you.